Okay, and welcome to the shittiest, nastiest, darkest, most racist, fucked up podcast that's ever existed since the dawn of humanity. With my guest, Giorgi Hind, the human connector.
Oh, I love it, man. Very, very good. Very good.
Okay, so a little bit of background on Giorgi. So Giorgi is very, very active in the business community. He has a lot of different connections and stuff that he's made. He's actually in London. And for a lot of people who have gone down the legal rabbit holes of all the stuff that I do on my website and all the people who would watch my show, I had an interest in bringing Giorgi on for two reasons. First off, there are some groups that are popping up in London and in England that are really getting involved into all of what we're doing. Now, there are a few countries on this planet that I know are very, very similar to the legal structure that we have here in America, okay? Now, American law comes from England because common law is essentially an English derivative. It might have something that goes deeper than that. It might come from other countries before England, but as far as I know, for a very, very long time, the core part of common law is England, because at one point in time, England was a culture and a style of dress and a style of politics that all these other countries wanted to have. Okay, everyone, like if you study history, you find out that like England was everywhere, right? And England was spreading across the whole world, and it wasn't because they were conquerors. It was because they really had an amazing culture that other people actually wanted. It was almost like an export. They were almost like packaging up their culture and exporting it because people really wanted it, right? It's very fascinating. So,
Yeah.
I'm getting some echo on your end now, Giorgi, a little bit, maybe from the phone or something. So common law is basically the legal structure of England. And I know for a fact that America and Australia both operate off of common law. I don't know what other countries operate off of common law exactly. So anyone listening to this one, we are now moving outside of America a little bit. I'm going to be asking Giorgi some questions. He's going to be asking me some questions. A lot of what this podcast is going to cover is going to cover for sure America, England, and Australia. I don't know exactly what other countries, so I just wanted to be transparent about that. And Giorgi, welcome to the show.
Cheers, brother. Yeah, good intro. And yeah, I suppose it'd be nice to have a bit of a back and forth with you around this, because I get so many questions, like, especially more and more people that I'm telling in London and people that I know in like the business sector. And they're like, well, how does it work? Like, how can I pay sort of, nobody wants to pay taxes, right? I think, right, when you actually understand why it's been set up and how it works is absolutely just wounding. I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking. So, yeah. And for me, that's always like, I've always, since I was younger, I've always thought it just doesn't sound right. Like, how can people just come along and just say, oh, yeah, I want to charge you for this and I want to charge you for that? And people just go into agreement with it. It's just like, yeah, but why? Why? So yeah, I mean, one of the questions, right, which I've done a bit of your course as well. I'm still working through it because I really want to understand it. I don't want to rush it, and I've got a few other things that I'm dealing with. But one of the questions that, I'll make it an easy question for you, but how can I use this as an advantage in business, right? Mainly around taxes.
Well, first question is, how many of the videos have you seen so far? Which one are you on? That way I can get an idea.
I'm up to about 9, I think.
Oh wow, okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so how can someone use this? Okay, yeah. So the way that someone can use this, again, England. I'm going to assume, just completely out of my ass, that England is literally the same skeletal structure as America. It's all the same shit. Everything's set up the same way. It's just different forms, different names for organizations, different flow lines, but it's really the same skeletal structure. If I asked you a whole shitload of questions and I were to write it all down and figure it all out live on this podcast, it wouldn't shock me to find out that it's the same, literally it's the same fucking layout of everything with just different names in each box, honestly. That may not be true though. I could be totally off. But basically in terms of using this in business for tax purposes and that sort of thing, you're able to operate in the public or in the private. Those are the two big words, right? When you operate in the private, you are the government.
Right.
When you operate in the public, the government is the government. So if you want to be your own government entirely to the point where even the government says that they can't be the government inside of your government, you operate in the private. Even in America, we have Supreme Court rulings, multiple Supreme Court rulings that when someone's operating entirely in the private, the government cannot subpoena, they cannot summon, they can't do anything. They can't do jack shit. They have nothing to do with what's going on in the private. Okay? So it's in America, it's called a voluntary system. Our tax system, they say it's based off of voluntary compliance. And people laugh and they joke and they say, yeah, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. That is true. That is 100% completely and utterly true.
Right.
Everything that we do, operating in the public versus operating in the private, paying taxes, how much taxes you pay, filing a tax return, reporting taxes to the government, all these things are completely and utterly optional and voluntary, legally and lawfully. Okay? So the problem is that nobody ever told you any of this, okay? And the government operates off of this assumption that if you don't know any of this, you're fucking retarded, basically. Yeah. That's the ultimate assumption. The ultimate assumption is we don't have any responsibility to tell you anything. If you learn it, great. If you don't, then you're fucking dumb. That's it. That's what they operate off of. And you can get mad and you can get pissed and you can freak out and you can do whatever the fuck you want. It ain't going to change that. It ain't going to change that fact. No emotional reaction towards any of this is going to change any of this. Okay? So you have two choices. You can either A, not understand any of this and continue in your life and be considered a fucking retard by the government. Okay? And a fucking retard, by the way, has to be taken care of. A fucking retard cannot take care of themselves. A fucking retard is essentially a child or something that needs to be as per their own laws and terms, as per, I think it's 1 U.S. Code Section 8, if you're retarded or you don't know or whatever, they consider you a child, they consider you a ward of the court, they consider you a liability that is basically a drooling moron that has to be fed, that has to be washed, that has to have that cannot support themselves and is of no use or of no good to themselves or anyone else, okay? And you say, well, that's insane and psychotic. And you know what? Maybe it is. But the thing is that your emotional reaction towards that behavior or that mindset or that operating basis is not going to do anybody any fucking good.
Right.
The only way out is educating yourself and educating other people, okay? And the crux, the most important aspect of educating yourself and educating other people is making sure that you have the correct and very, very thorough understanding of the definitions of words, terms, and phrases. The big secret in all of this is the governments are operating off of an entirely different language. Literally, we're talking to the point where it's basically like learning French or learning Italian, okay? It's legal definitions for terms. Not every single word in the English language is defined in a different way, but as I'm sure you've noticed and many other people have noticed, a lot of them have been defined in a very different way. A huge amount, a shocking amount, to the point where you start looking up almost every single word you ever hear in a dictionary because you don't know which one is fucked up and which one's not.
Yeah.
So that is essentially the background on all of this. And then to answer your question, how can you contract if nobody understands any of the definitions of any of the words? And how can you contract? Now, in terms of taxation, in terms of business and taxation, the problem is that there's only so there's three parties in the contract. Let's say a simple contract. There's you, there's whoever you're contracting with, and there's the government, right? Now, of those three people or of those three groups, which one has the correct definitions of the words that are being used in the contract?
They do. Well,
only the government.
In their version anyway.
In their version, right? So in their little world, these two parties are both retarded and they don't have a clue what's going on, and they have to be treated as though they're basically retarded children.
Right.
So what happens is that in a contract, you have two retards, essentially, as per the government's view of what's going on, that are bumbling around doing some retarded stuff, and they have to be managed and manhandled because they're retarded.
Right. Yeah. So
that's where taxation and trouble comes from. Taxation and trouble comes from you're playing a game that the only way out of the game is to understand the definitions of the words, terms, and phrases, okay? And you don't understand the definitions of the words, terms, and phrases, and you're using their words without knowing it. Now, there's actually a completely other way that you can get around all of this, which is a much more advanced and much more wild way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
You can actually create an entirely new language that completely circumvents all of these words, and you can write up an entirely new structure of language and terms, and you can use those instead of the ones that we normally use in contracts. Now, I understand that's insane, and I understand no one's going to do that.
Sure.
I am just simply bringing that up as a way of giving you the vision of holy shit, helping the listener understand what I'm trying to talk about here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the process of doing that myself, okay? So what I've done very recently is I came to the monstrous cognition that you can create a dictionary, and the dictionary can have the definitions of all of these really fucked up legal words that they use to turn us into slaves, and you can redefine all of these terms and then mail them all the new definitions and tell them that it's basically called a novation. Novation means a change in a contract, okay? So then what you do is you just print off this dictionary, and it's not a huge dictionary. It's got like maybe 50 words in it. It's nothing massive. And you notarize it. You go get it notarized, and you put the word novation at the top of it. I'm going to write all this up, and I'm going to issue it as a download, and anyone can just download it, sign it, and mail it out, right? And it's going to completely redefine all of these words. So what's going to happen is it's basically going to kick the government out of all of the contracts, whether they like it or not. It makes no difference. They're going to be extricated from all of the contracts naturally.
So prime example, right? Like I've got, obviously we have the HMRC over here, which stands for like HMRC, Her Royal Highness, Revenue and Customs, right? That's what we have, and. Is
that like the IRS, or is that like the Treasury, or is that like both?
It's like the IRS, because what happens is when you want to set a company up, you will go online to the .gov.co.uk website, and you will set up a private legal corporate entity. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I'm now trading with that. I have a corporation that's registered. You can see me that I'm registered by the government, etc. Here I am. Now, every year or every 6 months, say every quarter, they want tax. They want to taxate you, right? They want taxation off you for the amount of business that you've done. So it's whatever your profits are plus 20% of that. Yeah. For business tax. So So right now, with my company, for example, what's the most easiest and most quickest way of me basically turning around to them and saying, look, I'm not going to give you your, I'm not going to be paying this. I'm not going to be paying this bill. In other words, all right? I wouldn't even volunteer that information. But what's the easiest way to go around that? I've got a load of tax that most people be like, well, I'm going to have like, £100,000 tax bill. I'm going to have a 50 grand tax bill. Like, how do I get over this?
Yeah. So the problem here is that almost nobody on the entire planet knows the definition of the word corporation. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is the key issue here. Okay. It is the definitions of the words that cause the problems. Okay. Now, the definition of the word corporation, and you're not going to find this anywhere. This is from, I don't know, 1,200 hours of fucking research. Yeah. Okay, who knows? I don't know. Sure. The definition of corporation is this. So, the Crown of England has this legal structure. Okay, and they've exported this legal structure. Okay, the United States Code. I'm sure if I did enough research, it comes from England. Okay, everything pretty much comes from England, and London is sort of the center of the world, really. It's not New York. Yeah. So the way it works is that when you file to get an incorporation done, what the contract you're doing actually states is you're requesting to contract underneath the umbrella of English law and structure. You're saying, excuse me, may I please operate underneath your structure, underneath your laws, underneath all of your stuff?
Right.
And can I plug myself and my commerce-related business activities into your already established system in exchange for taxes and in exchange for whatever else there might be there that I might need to? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's happening is that you're now in this system. You've applied to be inside of this system, and now they're saying, "Hey, we created all of this structure. Now we're giving you the value of being able to use this structure that you wanted to be involved in, that you applied to be a part of.
Right.
But now you need to pay us our exchange because we put this whole thing together for you." Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is that there's another way that's actually called operating in the public. The public, the definition of the term the public, is operating within that incorporated structure. Okay? Operating in the private is that you don't incorporate and you operate just by yourself, or you operate through a private irrevocable trust. Okay? You're not operating or requesting or applying to operate within their structure. You're operating completely outside of that structure.
Right.
Now, this choice of operating in the public or operating in the private is completely voluntary, and it's completely legal. Mm-hmm. The problem is that people start operating in the public, they don't realize it, and then now they're trying to operate in the private by not paying taxes. Doesn't make any sense, okay?
Right.
When you operate in the private, essentially what you're doing is you're doing kind of like basically handshake deals, essentially, right? You write up, so you have the entire United States Code, right? And it's 80 trillion pages of horse shit, basically, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a private irrevocable trust and I want to do a business deal with you, I would write up a 1 or 2 page contract, really simple. And in my world, you better fucking add in the definitions, or no one's fucking contracting with me. So there better be a definition section. I'll fucking kill you, literally. Okay. Yeah. So you have the definitions. You have the contract, which the simpler the better, in my opinion. Complex contracts are weird, fucked up. They show that a very low level of trust. They show contracts. I mean, the ideal contract is this. I shake your fucking hand and we work together and there's no paper. That's the ideal contract. And personally, if you're not comfortable doing a handshake deal with someone, I don't think you should be doing business with them. That's how I operate, okay? And I believe Dan S. Pena says the same thing, and he's like one of my favorite mentor coach guys. He doesn't mentor me directly. He mentors me
sure.
indirectly,
No,
okay?
I like Dan Pena. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, so he says that if you wouldn't do a handshake deal, don't do a deal. Okay, and I actually live my life by that, and it's very helpful. It's very, very good. You sleep very well. Stress levels are very low. So
going back to
you have to get rid of. You have to make a choice. Do you want to operate within that structure and then pay the exchange associated with operating in that structure, or do you want to operate outside of that structure? Do you want to run your own show? Do you want to do handshake deals and make all the rules and laws yourself? Now, it gets a little bit more hilarious to me because everyone who operates in the public doesn't even know what any of the laws are anyways. So I don't even know why you would want to operate in the public, because if you wanted to operate in the public, you have to go and read thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of different codes, all super ultra complex. People hire lawyers because they think lawyers have read all this shit. Lawyers haven't read any of this shit.
Right.
No one has read any of this shit. Nobody. No accountant, no lawyer, nobody. Nobody reads these codes. They just sit there. There are these giant fucking tomes that everyone says that's the law, and no one fucking reads it. That's the world we live in. That is the public, okay? So why you would want to operate in the public literally makes no fucking sense to me, okay? Zero, okay? The problem is that no one knew what the contract was. Everyone just thought that you had to sign up for an incorporation, and then now you're just in this weird, vague void that I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know.
Like you're in the system then, right?
So the thing is that, so police officers, they're policing the public side of the law, all right? So if you're operating in the private, you don't necessarily have like an enforcement arm. You kind of do. It depends on how you do it. Like I can get enforcement through the public even though I'm operating in the private, but I do it because I'm pretty advanced at all this stuff, right? But you have to be willing to there's a lot of guys who are doing all this stuff, and they recommend that you only operate in the private. You get out of the public entirely, and you don't do a goddamn thing in the public at all whatsoever.
Right.
I personally think that it's important to understand how to operate in the public and in the private, because I feel like the more you understand about these things, the more you can operate with it and operate around it. And the public does have some use, okay? And what's going to be happening is, as people all start to exit the public and start operating in the private, the public's going to go, oh, fuck, we fucked up. We need to change the structure to make it more ideal so that people want to come back into the private, okay? It's a supply and demand situation, right? So at some point in the future, probably in the next couple of years, the way things are going, the public is going to shift, okay? And then, hey, if the public shifts in a certain way and they make a much simpler structure, and it's something that you can plug into and get a lot of value from, I'll look at it. I mean, I'm not anti-public for the rest of my life or anything like that.
Right.
I'm just you just look at the benefits in the current period of time. Like right now, February 12th, 2023, you look at the public and I'm like, fuck that. No way I want to do that shit, right? Absolutely no fucking way I want to get involved in that, right? So I operate in the private. Operating in the private is a completely different lifestyle. It's completely different. You get different type of EIN numbers. The way law works is completely different.
So right now, I'm in the private, right? So right now, I'm operating as a corporation in the private sector, right, with HMRC.
No, if you have a corporation, you are operating in the public.
Public.
Corporation means public.
Right. Okay.
And it means what it means is the word corporation is something that is plugged into the English structure of public law and public codes and taxes and all that shit.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
So if you're looking to exit the system, you have to get rid of the corporation. The word corporation literally means it's a part of this system.
So if we now I've entered in with I'm now entered into the public, right? And with a corporation, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They now want a certain taxation of me, right? They want to tax me 20%, however many percent, whatever, right? How do I, in the position that I'm in with my company being registered, how do I decide that I don't want to pay any more taxes anymore?
You technically can do it very, very easily while you're inside the system, but as I learn more and more and more and more, the correct and proper and ethical way to do it is to exit the system entirely, and that would be to get rid of any corporations. You just get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you operate your life, and you operate all your bank accounts, and you operate everything that you're doing through private, irrevocable trusts. Private, irrevocable trusts are essentially like corporations, but they're in the private. So in the public, a business is called a corporation. In the private, a business is called a trust.
Right, I see. Yeah. So
it's not called a business, though. The word business is a public term, but I'm just trying to give you an example of if you want to operate in the public, you have a corporation. If you want to operate in the private, you have a trust.
So if I operate in the private and I set the trust up, which I've looked into a little bit, right? How does that leave me in terms of, visibility and credibility and stuff like that? Because obviously at the moment I can be vetted online, people can see my company, etc. Like how does that work in terms of getting business if I'm positioned now as a trust?
So it's a very, very different world. So basically, like, for example, let's say you're in an industry that requires what do you call it? A license. Let's say a dentist or a doctor. Okay. In the public, you have to have a license to be a dentist or a doctor. And it's very, very shocking for people to hear this, but in the private, you do not need a license to be a doctor. You can surgically swap out people's brains with a chainsaw legally in the private without a fucking license and without insurance. Okay?
Right.
It's completely legal.
Yeah.
Now, in the private, you don't have a legal problem. You have a marketing problem. Okay. Now, in the private, I don't consider it a marketing problem. I consider it a marketing opportunity. Right.
Right.
So the way it works is, if someone asked me, Brandon, I want to be a doctor and I want to start operating in the private, how would you do it? And I would say, I would do a marketing campaign that states that, these big governmental agencies, they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. They seem like they are basically the mafia now. I'm not going to have any part of it. I am operating completely outside of the system. I do not have a license. I'm very proud of not having a license. And, if you are tired of the bullshit and you're tired of being fucked over and having extremely awful doctor experiences because these structures and these systems are all designed to fuck us in the ass and betray us and betray our trust, come and see me. And then you would have, obviously at that point, you would need to have some sort of testimonial section with all the people and videos of people who are like, at first, I wasn't sure because he wasn't licensed, but then he's really great. Or they would say, hey, over the past few years, I've lost a lot of trust in the establishment anyways. So by the time I heard that he didn't have a license, I didn't really give a fuck. Basically stuff like that, right? And you turn the legal problem into a marketing problem. But I feel like when you do that, it's an advantage to you. Because the thing is that when you market that properly, that is a amazing marketing campaign. And then you think to yourself, well, I'm going to get attacked in the media. Hey, that's great. That's exactly what you want. If the media picks up your marketing and starts to put it in their PR and they start to attack you, trust me, you're really going to blow up super, super fucking fast. You're going to have a completely packed office to the point where you can't even think or breathe in weeks. So, some people get nervous about that. I get really excited about that. It all comes down to perception. It all comes down to viewpoint. It all comes down to how you look at it. Because I wish every day, I wake up every day with a fucking erection, hoping that these fucking media corporations and the news and stuff just start coming for me, bro. Like, I pray for the day. So, I wish they would just start coming at me with full force, bro. Yeah. I wish they would do a 2-hour fucking episode of me on CNN tonight. I would sit there with just the hardest dick I've ever had in my entire life for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to perception, viewpoint, and I'm telling you, the key thing that changes your perception and your viewpoint is the definitions of the words, terms, and phrases.
Sure. Yeah. I can. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. I totally understand that.
And in my new dictionary, which is located on my public notice page on my website, that dictionary redefines all of these words and really, really cleans up all of this misunderstanding as to what's public and what's private and a corporation and a trust and, all this stuff. And it basically redefines everything to take away all the power from the governmental corporations and give it back to you as an individual.
So really right now with my company, right, being in London, I've got to, from what you're telling me here, I've got to really set a trust up, and I've got to operate from the private sector.
Yeah, the trust, all you do is just go online. I'm going to make an advanced course. I'm going to show people how to do this. When you create the trust, there's public trusts and there's private trusts. So what they did was the government started offering governmental trusts as a way of confusing people into what kind of trust to get, okay?
Right.
Anything the government gives you is a corporation. And I'm going to repeat that again. It's very, very important. Anything that the government gives you is a corporation, no matter what they name it. They could name it Elefatron. They could name it a trust. They could name it a corporation. They could name it a partnership. They could name it an association. They could name it an LLC, S Corp, C Corp. They could name it a fucking non-binary shooting star. They could name it a fucktard. They could name it anything they want. If it comes from the government, it is a corporation.
Right, okay.
So a private, irrevocable trust does not come from the government. It's created by an executor or a grantor, which is just some guy like me. I could be a grantor. I've been the grantor for I don't know how many trusts, like 12. Mm-hmm. I say that the trust exists, and then boom, the trust exists. It's that fucking simple. And people are so, including myself, it took me a long time to understand this, people are so brainwashed to think that if it doesn't come from some sort of governmental agency to approve it or something like that, then it isn't real. And that's just all part of the slave brainwashing, okay? A grantor or executor just signs the agreement to the trust to bring it into existence, and then the trust is now brought into existence. It's that simple, okay? Now that is operating in the private. I created it, or you created it, or somebody else created it. Anyone can create a trust. You draw it up, sign it, boom, now it exists, okay? So the grantor or executor is the one who creates the trust, and then the trustee is the one who operates the trust from that point forward, okay? And that's called a private, irrevocable trust. And that's an actual fucking trust, not a corporation. Anything from the government is a corporation. It's not a trust.
Yeah.
If they tell you it's a trust and they give you what's called a trust, it's a lie. It's not a trust. It's a corporation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, interesting. So if that, so really and truthfully then, as of the moment, I'm still plugged into that system. So the only way for me to actually do this and viably do this is I have to set up as a trust.
Yes.
Okay.
A private, irrevocable trust.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I operate in the trust, and I can still set up a bank account and everything the same way via the trust.
That's a little more complex. So in order to set up a bank account, you have to have an EIN number. That's how it works in America. I don't know how it works in England. I'm assuming it's something similar. The way that you, let's see here. I was gonna cover this in my advanced course, but I suppose I can give these good people a little taste, a little taste of some advanced shit.
So basically that's what I need to do really as of the moment, right? Because I'm operating in the public sector. So I need to operate in the private sector, and in order to do that, I need to set up a trust, right? So I set up this trust, and then I basically everything's the same, but I just operate from the trust. But I'd need to figure out obviously how to set up a bank account for that.
Yeah, I will go ahead and drop some serious fucking knowledge here. I'll probably still put this in the advanced course. So I will teach you how to get a completely foreign, completely untaxable EIN number for your trust, which is something that a lot of people have been asking me for. I was going to wait until I actually got the numbers from the IRS, but I know basically for a fact that this is going to work. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and show this to you guys. This is going to be pretty big. A lot of people have been asking me for this, so I will show you how to do that. Okay? So you should be able to see my screen now, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
So, all right. So this is in America. I don't know if it works the same in England, but I'm sure it's probably similar. So this is an SS4 form. This is an application for an EIN number. You need an EIN number in America to open up a bank account. It's the only thing you need. Once you get your EIN, you're all set for your trust. Okay? So this is the name of one of my many, many trusts. Okay, we have Demand Creators Ministry Trust. Okay, and the executor, administrator, or trustee or care of name. This is my human name, and then comma TTEE, which means trustee. Okay, in this particular trust, I am not the executor. Someone else is. I am the trustee. So I operate this trust as the trustee. Okay. For people who aren't familiar with a lot of my work, the reason why my name is in all lowercase with the hyphen and the colon is because there is a trust name that's made in America and also in England when you're born through your birth certificate. It's a trust of your name in all capital letters. I use all lowercase with the hyphen and the colon to separate when I'm talking about myself as a human being versus when I'm talking about the trust that's created by the government of my name in all capital letters. If someone has never heard that before,
wow.
I know that sounds crazy, but that is the reason why my name is spelled that way. I operate as two different persons in law. Okay? So here's the mailing address of the trust. The street address, because the trust is not located in their jurisdiction. So for people who are not familiar with my work, the definition of the term United States means the District of Columbia. And that's also another thing that is wildly mind-blowing to people who are new to this. So I put rule-free delivery, non-domestic, without the United States, because when you start reading through the laws and the codes, whenever you're in the District of Columbia, you would write within the United States. Whenever you're outside of the District of Columbia, you would write without the United States. And that comes from, I try to give the original references as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see here. We have, let's see here, 17. There it is, 1746. Title 18. Is it Title 18? Title 28. 28 USC 1746. This is the way that you do declarations or affidavits, the way you sign them. If executed without the United States, this is the way that you execute an affidavit, which is a sworn. Any piece of paper where you swear to the truthfulness of the paper becomes an affidavit.
Right.
Whenever you execute an affidavit with outside of the District of Columbia, you would do it this way. Whenever you execute an affidavit inside of the District of Columbia, you execute it this way. Mm-hmm. So that's where this particular point of non-domestic without the United States comes from. It comes from Title 28, USC, Section 1746. Okay. Mm-hmm. Country and state where principal business is located, you do the Republic of the United States of America. It's California Republic. And the reason why it's written this way is because State of California is a private for-profit corporation that is located in the District of Columbia. California Republic is the actual original state of California, the actual real one that is actually located where people think California is located.
Yeah.
So when you write State of California, you're actually writing the District of Columbia. When you write California Republic, you're actually writing California. Okay?
Mm.
Name of responsible party is my human name, comma, trustee, which is TTEE. I am not, my social security number is not a part of this, has nothing to do with this. This is a completely private matter, so I put NA. Is this application for a limited liability company? No. What type of entity is this? This is a other nonprofit organization. It's a ministry. Now, this section is a ministry. It's a nonprofit organization because when you're exchanging Federal Reserve notes are nothing more than IOU notes. They're not real money. So when you're exchanging only Federal Reserve notes, it's never a positive or a negative. It's actually considered a nonprofit organization by law, right? The only way you would have any profit organization is if you're exchanging silver and gold coins. If you are not exchanging silver and gold coins, you have a nonprofit organization, okay? So this is a nonprofit organization. Everything I do is nonprofit, okay? I also checked Indian tribal governments or enterprises because I am a foreign government as per their own definitions.
So you went nonprofit because of...
If you're not exchanging gold and silver coins in America, you have a nonprofit organization.
Ah, right. That's interesting. Okay.
If someone paid me 480 trillion Federal Reserve notes tomorrow, that's all nonprofit. There's no real profit there.
Oh.
Federal Reserve notes are not a true profit in law.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So reason for applying, I check the box create a trust, specify type, private, irrevocable trust. Okay. Date business started or acquired, month, day, year, see instructions. NA, this is not a business. Closing month of accounting year is February. I have no employees. The definition of employee is very interesting. So you can have a lot of people who work for you and they are not employees. check one box that describes the principal activity of your business, other nonprofit activities, because that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what everyone is doing. They just don't know it. Charity and nonprofit activities is the principal line of merchandise sold, specific construction work done, products produced, or services provided. Has the applicant entity shown on line 1 ever applied for and received an EIN? No. And then I sign this document without prejudice because that reserves my human rights. And then I sign it with my human name, comma, trustee.
So
this is how you fill out SS4 form in America properly. And then there's actually 2 different fax numbers. There's one fax number for people who are within the United States, and there's one fax number for people who are sending in something that is without the United States or outside of the United States. You send this document to the number, I believe the area code is 301. You send this document to the one that is outside of the United States, and they will give you what's called a non-resident alien EIN number. That EIN number proves that you are completely outside of the tax code, you are not taxable, and you literally don't even need to file any sort of tax documentation for the life of the trust. And that's how you do it.
Wow. Yeah, do you know what? It's actually quite. It's a lot more simple than I thought. I think it'd be interesting to learn how I would get the bank account set up. That'd be the only thing in the back of my mind. Like, how do I?
Very, very, very simple. So all you do is you want to make sure you have your passport in America. I don't know how it is in England.
Yeah, we have that.
You get your passport, and then you're going to go in and you're going to give them your passport. You're going to give them your trust documentation when you created it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to give them the EIN number of what we just did. Once you get that back and you get your EIN number, they need the EIN number, they need the trust documentation, and they need your passport.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, right, if that company is then connected to the bank, right? So, for example, if a company now wanted to liquidate, they just liquidate the accounts, the bank account, and they close the corporation down, right? Boom, yeah, everything, and it's it's closed down, like it lies all with the corporation, right? But with the trust, like how would that work in terms of protecting yourself, right? For like, I don't know, risk of business, or like there was a recession and something could happen. So you've got the trust set up, you've got your bank account set up. What if there was an issue and you had to liquidate or you had to pull money out? Like, what position would that leave you in versus a corporation, where if I have a corporation and let's say I had 2 major contracts and I never got paid for them contracts, I'm going to have to liquidate. So me personally, I'm protected in a way. My name is, because it lies with the business, right? It lies with the corporation. So what's the difference between them two right there?
When you are incorporated, I'm looking for the actual law, the actual code statute on this, but it's probably not going to be something I can find super, super rapidly. Basically, I can find it later, and it's in my course, and it's on my website. All incorporations are in America.
Yeah.
A corporation is legally considered a U.S. citizen. So if you have a corporation, the corporation itself, it's actually even more complicated. If you have a corporation, it's instantaneously considered a U.S. citizen in law. If you have a trust,
mm-hmm.
it's considered a U.S. citizen if more than 2/3 of the board of directors are U.S. citizens. Something like that. That part I could be wrong, but it's something like 2/3 or 3/4 or something like that, okay? So the only way that you can truly have something that is completely outside of the system is that you would have a private irrevocable trust where the trustees themselves are not U.S. citizens. The trustees have to be non-citizen state nationals, okay? when you combine the irrevocable private trust with the trustees being private non-citizen state nationals, by the United States Code, that trust is now completely and utterly outside of their jurisdiction. It's completely in the private. They made it pretty difficult for people to do this. Okay, so the answer to your question is that anything that's a U.S. citizen is owned by the government. So they're talking a lot about all this stuff about like the government's going to start taking money out of your accounts, and they started taking money out of the truckers' accounts that were doing the protests in Canada and all this kind of stuff. Legally, that's how it actually works. Your company is owned by the government. Your bank accounts are owned by the government. That's how they just dip in. They take whatever they want, whenever they want. They take their taxes whenever they want. It doesn't matter, right? So when you have a private irrevocable trust with a foreign EIN number, which is what I just taught you how to do, even though it's not the simplest thing in the world, but if you focus on it, it's not that hard to learn. Then you get your passport straightened out, and you're a non-citizen state national of the state of which you live in America. I'm sure it's probably a lot of the same stuff in England.
I'm tracking. Yeah.
At that point, when you have all of those elements put together, the government can't touch any of your shit, and neither can anybody else, even through the bank.
Wow. So I really need to set this up ASAP. Yeah.
So three elements. Passport. If you don't have your passport straightened out, they're going to require you to give them your Social Security number. Once you give them the Social Security number, you're pretty much fucked. So the only way you can get around that, like for example, the bank that I bank at, they have two different options. They have a U.S. citizen, a U.S. person option, and a non-U.S. person option. The U.S. person option, you have to give your Social Security number. The non-U.S. person option, you give them your passport, and they put the passport number in there, right? So you want the non-U.S. person one, because a U.S. person is someone who's in the District of Columbia, because U.S. means United States. United States means only and exclusively the District of Columbia, okay? So you want to have a non-U.S. person trusteeship with your foreign EIN number combined with your private irrevocable trust. And now you are in the private, totally, boom, boom, boom. You hit all 3 points. You are completely and utterly in the private. You are your own world. You are your own government. You are completely untouchable. You cannot be subpoenaed. You cannot be summoned.
Wow.
When you hit all 3 points, you are senior to government. You are the United States government within your own zone of business and commerce.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, interesting. So that's a very simple way of eventually answering my question, which was, how do I basically not pay tax? Because, as you rightly said, the reason why we pay that is because we've opted into agreement with that structure and that system. But essentially what you're saying is, just to boil it down on the back of what you've just said, is that you get rid of all of that or leave it, whatever.
Yep.
Set up your private entity, first of all. And by the way, I will be doing this. Get my passport sorted out. Get the I forget the specific term, but you get a specific overseas number.
It's basically a foreign EIN number. Now, when they say foreign, they're saying foreign to the United States. The definition of United States means the District of Columbia. So anything that's foreign to the District of Columbia can get a foreign EIN number. Generally speaking, foreign EIN numbers start with the digits 98. So it's called a 98 EIN.
So what would that be for me over here?
Not even the slightest clue, my friend. That's the problem. I don't know. I mean, now I will tell you one thing. The District of Columbia is like this weird, separate corporate world, essentially, inside of the United States of America. Okay. Now, London is actually basically the District of Columbia of England. And London is basically like a foreign corporation, and it's not really in the universe of England. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know exactly what all of that means. And I don't really know exactly how deep that rabbit hole goes. And I don't really know exactly how it all works. But basically, there are 3 areas in the world that are like these weird foreign voids that no one really understands. Okay. One is the Vatican City. The second one is the District of Columbia. And the third one is London, right? Now, London is probably, I would assume, the senior of the 3. So it's like a trinity, right? At the top, you have London. And then down here, you have the District of Columbia and you have Vatican City. Okay. Now, how that all works and what all that means, I don't really know. But London really, truly is the top of the top of the top of the top of the pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense.
Now, how that's going to work for you in terms of all of this, I don't have a clue. The only thing I can say is if it is a situation where London is this like private, weird, foreign thing, then what you're going to do is you're going to want to have your trust, but you're going to want to put your trust outside of London in some other area of England that's part of the original England or something. I don't know. And then you're going to operate the trust outside of London in terms of its location. And then you're going to say that it's, yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah.
So let's say like Grinstead or whatever. What county is that or whatever?
Yeah, like Sussex. We're saying Sussex.
Suffolk?
Sussex.
So if you were to open your trust and place it in Sussex, but you were to say that it's the Sussex Republic, non-incorporated Sussex Republic, that's probably, I'm assuming that's probably how you do it.
Right, I see. Okay. And then I would have to get the number. How would I get the number?
In America, you fill out the SS4 just like I did. I haven't gotten the numbers back. It takes 4 weeks, but I pretty much guarantee you, literally, that's exactly how you get it.
Okay, so that's for the States. So I'd basically have to find out what that would be for me. Okay, that's pretty much that's very simple. It's a simple process. I've got another question as well, right? When we was on the phone a while ago, you said to me, keep doing the courses, and eventually you will legally know how to print your own money.
Yeah.
Break that down in a simple term, right? Like not as long as what we just went over, but more in a simple fact, like or even just to tag on the end of that question. How can I use this to play a bigger and better game and essentially, be empowered, but also make more money, right?
So when they detached paper money from gold and silver coins in 1971, that was the final blow. 1933 in America is when they first started doing it. And then they had a second thing that they did in like the 40s or the 50s. And then in 1971, that was like the final disconnection completely and entirely from A to Z. Okay. So what happens is, and I know it's the same in England. I don't know exactly how it all breaks down 100%, right? But you have a Federal Reserve note, okay?
Yeah.
Where this rabbit hole begins, it begins at the legal definition of the word note, which is right there on a Federal Reserve note up top.
Right.
Federal Reserve note. So when you clear the word note, it means a promise to pay. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's it. You're going to see all these definitions and all this stuff on the internet. It's going to go on and on and on forever. A note is a promise to pay. That's it. That's simple. Okay? So what this is this is a contract. It's an IOU contract that states that the private for-profit corporation known as United States, which means the District of Columbia, owes the private for-profit corporation known as the foreign private for-profit corporation known as the Federal Reserve $20 at some point in the future. That's what this means.
So it's just debt upon
This
debt.
does not mean that you're paying anybody. It's just an IOU. This is an IOU. And it's not even an IOU that has anything to do with you.
Yeah.
It's an IOU that these guys owe these guys $20 in the future. It's a private contract. This thing is literally as if Italy said that they were going to owe France $20 in 400 years. That's what this is. Totally fucking insane. Why we use these is totally insane, right? So when you learn how one of these is structured, it's very, very simple. This is called an instrument. So the word note and the word instrument basically mean the same thing. It just means a promise. That's it. And you can go into it, and you can get all deep into it, and you can study it for 20 years, and if you want to, whatever. But I'm telling you, it's this fucking simple. It's all smoke and mirrors, overcomplicated horse shit that they created to try to get people confused. Okay? Note and instrument means promise. Okay? Now, an instrument that can be exchanged from person to person easily is called a negotiable instrument. Okay? A non-negotiable instrument would be like if I wrote a check and I put your name on it, and it was like very clear and very difficult to really have someone else cash that check or do something with it. Or a contract that says that I, Brandon Joe Williams, of this and this address, of this and this passport number, Giorgi Hind, of this and this address, of this and this phone number, of this and this passport number, $40 in the future at some point in time, and I sign it. That's a non-negotiable instrument. No, it's going to be very difficult for anyone else to move that thing around, right? But if I say the holder of this note is entitled to $40 at some point in the future, now anyone who holds this note has $40 in value. So it's really easy. Now it becomes negotiable. Anybody can do this and trade it around and give it around, whatever. So these are negotiable instruments. Okay? Now you can actually create your own negotiable instruments by taking a piece of paper and promising to pay someone some money and then signing it. Mm-hmm. And by law, as per the Uniform Commercial Code, which I believe is also the same ultimate code that's used in England, by law, any incorporated corporation, which is basically everything, it's everything in the public, does not have an option, does not have a choice, legally has to accept your manufactured and signed negotiable instrument.
Right, okay.
Now, the way that this works, and I'm going to show it to you exactly, and it works this way in almost every single country in the world, is 328. This is a bit advanced, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you because it's required to answer your question. Because people go, well, you're just fucking these companies over and they're not going to get any money and you're a fucking dick and you're a fucking criminal and you're a piece of shit. None of that's true. So what happens is that when you create a negotiable instrument and you send it in to any company or any bank or any this or any that or anything else in America and other places I'm sure as well, right? What they do is as per 31 Code of Federal Regulations, subsection 328.5, forms of endorsement. You go down to section 1. Now what happens is they take your completely manufactured negotiable instrument and they write on the negotiable instrument for presentation to the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, in my case, fiscal agent of the United States, for redemption or in exchange for securities of a new issue in accordance with written instructions submitted by inserting name of presenting bank, which would be Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Bank of the West or whatever. They write this on the negotiable instrument that you send to them, and then they send your manufactured negotiable instrument to the Federal Reserve, and then the Federal Reserve exchanges your manufactured negotiable instrument for Federal Reserve notes, and then sends the Federal Reserve notes back to the crediting agency or bank.
Mm.
So basically, when you study a lot of this stuff and you see everything, you realize that you are the source of credit, and you can create your own currency out of thin air, as long as you do it as per the law.
But that's got to be. But someone's still got to accept that, though.
They don't have a choice to accept it. That comes from UCC 3-603, I believe.
So let me ask you that. Let me ask you a really good question. Have you ever?
I'm going to show you. Hold on one second. Have
you ever done
it? Show everything. So here is UCC 3-603, tender of payment, right? If tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument, the effect of tender is governed by principles of law applicable to tender of payment under a simple contract, right? So this is, if tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument and the tender is refused, there is discharge to the extent of the amount of the tender. So what that means, this is UCC 3-603, subsection B. What this means is if you send in a completely manufactured negotiable instrument, you could take a fucking piece of toilet paper and write a negotiable instrument on it. I, Brandon Joe Williams, promise to pay Bank of America $230,000 at some point in the future, and I sign it. You have to sign it, or it's not a negotiable instrument. If you mail in a piece of motherfucking toilet paper, if they refuse the piece of toilet paper, instantaneously $230,000 is discharged off of whatever account I'm trying to pay. There's actually another section I can show you. It's 18 U.S.C. 891. 18 U.S.C. 891 literally the repayment, this is subsection 4, the repayment of any extension of credit includes the repayment, satisfaction, or discharge in whole or in part of any debt or claim. So by doing this, by sending in a completely manufactured negotiable instrument, by definition, you are repaying the loan. And then what happens is if for any reason they decide they still don't want to follow the law of which they have operated in, and they don't want to follow the law in which they are involved in, at that point you start getting into lawsuits, you start getting into liens, you can actually start to go after them legally, and you can start suing them, and you will win in court. You will win.
Wow. That's amazing. Have you done it yourself personally?
Yeah, I have already discharged around $200,000 in debt, and the credit card agency that I discharged the debt with decided to report a lot of that debt to the credit agencies, and I wrote up a very large. I went through all of Title 18, and I found every single crime that was committed, which is like 18 felonies. And I wrote up an entire write-up about how, you guys you guys have committed 18 felonies, and if we don't get this corrected, it's going to be up to 179 years in prison, and it's $12.5 million in financial penalties.
And what they say to that?
I sent all that in. I sent that to the Attorney General of California, the Attorney General of the United States, and I also sent it to the Sheriff's Office for the New York City Sheriff's Office. And because if they don't figure this out with me and they don't play ball with me, I'm going to fly to New York. I'm going to get with the sheriffs in New York. I'm going to take the sheriffs to American Express's headquarters in New York City, and I'm going to start seizing cars and assets and computers and printers from live on social media from Amex headquarters. So they have already taken all of that debt, and it was marked as unpaid. It was marked as all this bad stuff. They've already changed all that to in dispute. And they've said that they've sent this whole thing up to a upper part of their legal department. So they still have, I think, 25 days. I gave them 60 days from the point of when they signed for the parcel to figure all this out. I think they signed for the parcel like January 7th, something like that. So they still have like 25 days or something like that to sort this out. If they're sending me mail. And they're like, "Hey, we're working on this. We're working on this." So they are sending me mail, and if they don't have this all sorted out by March 7th, March 10th, something like that, then I will proceed with $12.5 million in liens. Then from there, we'll start getting into asset seizure and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah. And who and how?
Now I'm going to be covering all of that in my advanced course. The way that you do all this stuff, I'm learning more and more. The way that you do all this stuff is you don't get emotional. You just stick to the law. You stick to the law.
Sure. Yeah.
No emotions, no opinions, no bullshit. Just stick to the law. Know the law so well, and stick to it word for word for word. That's it. When you do it that way, you'll get people worried and upset and starting to really think about what they're doing. Because I don't add any bullshit. It's just boys. This is the law. I get it that maybe you weren't aware of it and it's crazy or whatever, but like, boys, this is the law. I'm following the law. Are you not willing to follow the law? Because if you're not willing to follow the law, these are the consequences.
Wow.
And when you do it that way, you can take these huge, massive companies and you can put them right on their knees.
What? So if I took a credit card out now for like, this is great for people to give people the idea, right? Especially on our side of the water as well in London. So if I took a credit card out for, let's say I got 50 or 20 grand, 20,000 for it, say 50,000, right? And I used the money, and they basically said, right, you've not paid us your credit card. We're gonna basically freeze your credit. Tell the other credit agencies, which they do, and we're gonna come in and take legal action. Yeah, we're gonna take you to court because you've basically done same as what I'm expressing, right? What if I want to go and do that?
Yeah. It's very, very simple. So a bank or a credit card company or any of these creditors or any of these little loan companies or any of these little shark loans, all this stuff, it's all the same thing. So what they do is they give you a contract. The contract states that you're going to owe this much money at some point in the future and you promise to pay the loan back, blah, 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 blah. Once you sign the application for the loan, the application itself becomes a negotiable instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You've promised to pay. Once you sign a promise to pay, that document now becomes a negotiable instrument. Now, all they do is they take that negotiable instrument and they write an exchange request, like I showed you earlier on 31 CFR subsection 328.5, and they write an exchange, and they say we want to exchange this negotiable instrument for another negotiable instrument, which is the Federal Reserve notes, and then the bank cashes in your application for the exact same value of whatever signed to promise to pay on the application itself. Then they give you your own money that you just fucking created out of thin air at interest. You created the money. You just gave yourself money. So the way that it really, really works, when you get rid of all the smoke and bullshit and misunderstood words and symbols, the bank is a consultant that is assisting you to manufacture negotiable instruments and then exchange those negotiable instruments for more acceptable negotiable instruments. Once you realize that that's actually what's happening, you realize that you are loaning yourself money. So what you can do, it's kind of a hilarious situation. You can go to the bank and you can get a loan for $140 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn around and you say, thank you so much, bank, for helping me create a negotiable instrument and then helping me exchange that negotiable instrument for another negotiable instrument. You can give the bank a tip. Really appreciate your time. Here's $40,000. You guys are great. Thank you. And then never pay off the loan at all. Just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to tip the bank. I'm just thinking like, hey, if you want to give them some exchange for helping you to exchange one negotiable instrument for another one, because you're not really, the way the definitions are and stuff, we're trying to figure out how to do our own exchanges. That way we can just cut the banks out of the picture entirely. We haven't figured all that out yet. So you're hiring the bank to help you exchange the currency that you create for another type of currency. It's a currency exchange. It's no different than a currency exchange. A bank is a currency exchange. They're exchanging Brandon notes for Federal Reserve notes. That's all they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give you other people's money. It's actually illegal for banks to give you other people's money. They're not giving you their own money. They're not giving you anything. They're helping you create currency out of thin air and then take that currency and exchange it on a currency exchange for a different type of currency. That's it.
Wow.
Banks don't loan you anything. Banks assist you to loan yourself money. It's not really money, but anyways, money.
Okay. This is great. This is great breaking this down. This is the good stuff, because these are the type of questions that I get thrown at me when I'm trying to explain to people, and they go, "Well, yeah, but how do you do that? Because of this, and you know, the fear factor starts to kick in, and people start getting emotional." So, what you said there is great. It really boils things down and paints a lot of a clearer picture.
I believe it's video number 32 or 33. That's when I start breaking down all the definitions of all the words associated with this. And people, it was really hard for people, that particular video. That one is one of the more advanced videos in the course. So after you finish the last course video, which is number 37, there's 2 post-course videos, okay? The first post-course video is basically me attempting to do video number 33 again, but in simpler terms. Essentially, a lot of what we're going over in this podcast is essentially what I was going over in post-course video number 1.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I'll remember that. So
the only way that we can go back to a system where it's not all based off of promissory notes is that we have to go back to silver and gold coins.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. Now, when you go back to right now in America, 94% of all of our money is just inflated horse shit, right? So, or more, probably even more. So when you, if we were to go back to gold and silver coins and we were to exit this entire and totally insane system that we're involved in, it would basically obliterate Wall Street. It would obliterate all of these futures contracts. It would obliterate all of this weird negotiable instrument, promissory note, horse shit. And then, someone would work for, just some really shit job like a janitor or something like that. And they would make enough money from that job working like 30 hours a week to support like a family of 6, 2 houses, 4 vacations a year, 6 cars, motorcycles, everything. Every single person on the planet, if we were to go back to a silver and gold coin based system, and we were to get rid of all this weird horse shit that's all part of the psychosis of the financial world, we would be in a utopia. Essentially, it'd be a utopia where everyone would make such an incredible amount of money, and the money would have such incredible buying power, and people would actually own their homes, and everyone would have a home. Every single motherfucking person would have a home. You could work at McDonald's and easily buy a home. Maybe not a mansion, but you could work at McDonald's and easily. I don't even mean like it's tough. I mean easily buy a home.
Wow. So, following up from my last question earlier, which was basically, how can I use this to make money out of? So just to almost, because I know we've been going quite some time now, just to sort of wrap up on that last bit, if I was to go and get a credit card out now for like 20 or 50,000, I could get it out from the bank, sign the instrument, the negotiation. Yeah, that would be a
negotiable instrument.
Or
instrument, yeah, or note. It's all the same word.
Yeah, negotiable instrument. They would then take that, the agency, back to the bank.
The Federal Reserve.
Yeah, or what would it be in our?
Probably the Federal Reserve. Yeah.
Yeah. So they take that. Really? Okay. Interesting. They would then take that back to them, and then they would manufacture my own
pounds,
yeah. My own money, in effect. Yeah. They would manufacture and then give that to me.
No, the application form itself, when you sign it, that becomes Giorgi note. That's a Giorgi note now.
Right.
You've promised to pay that money. It's a Giorgi note.
Okay.
You could go to a car dealership, and you could get an application, and it says that Giorgi Hind promises to pay this much money at this much interest for this many years, and you could take and write at the top of that piece of paper, Giorgi Hind note, just like this.
Right.
Giorgi Hind note. And if you were to do that, you would be 100% accurate. That's exactly what you're doing. Once you sign the agreement, once you sign the promise to pay, that's the final step. Once your signature is completed, instantly you have a negotiable instrument.
But I'd have to sign that note. I'd have to sign it as
to sign the note.
So the
promise to pay is a note.
So the document that they give me, say the form, they give me a form, right?
The application or loan application or whatever.
Yeah, which then becomes the negotiable instrument.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They take that document.
Yeah.
And then they exchange that document with the Federal Reserve for pounds.
Okay. And then they exchange it, and then the agency puts that money, or basically the card then activates with the funds, with the money in the account, and I can go spending that money. I go spend, right?
So they gave you your own money at interest, and now you're paying them as if they gave you the money when they didn't give you a goddamn thing.
Right, that's the bit. So break that down a little bit more.
So they pretend as though they're giving you money. They're not giving you any money. They're taking your negotiable instrument, exchanging it for pounds, and then giving you back your own pounds at interest.
Right. Okay. Let me run through that to make sure I got that. So they take the negotiable instrument, and then they're giving me back my own pounds.
Yeah, they convert your application form into pounds and then give you back your pounds.
But don't I essentially owe them pounds back plus interest?
No.
Why not?
Because you're the one who created those 20,000 pounds or whatever. You created it when you signed the promise to pay. The only amount of money that you would owe any lending institution or bank in exchange for giving you a loan is just if you wanted to be nice and give them a little something for their time and effort in exchanging your note into pounds. Essentially, a bank, all they're really doing is they are a currency exchange. It's like going into a currency exchange in Hungary and exchanging English pounds for Hungarian whatever.
Right.
It's the same exact thing. You're creating Giorgi Hind notes. They are assisting you to do a currency exchange, transferring and exchanging Giorgi Hind notes for British pounds. They are not giving you anything. They are not giving you 1 penny. They are a consultant that you hire to help do a currency exchange.
Yeah, I get that. I see that. Yeah.
It is highly, highly illegal for a bank to give you anybody else's money. And I have the actual U.S. code for that. In America, I can try to look for it. Illegal.
So basically, when they start asking me for the money, yeah, which will happen as a natural cycle for them, right? So they're like, right, Giorgi, can you pay us back our £50,000? What do I then do?
What I do is
Tell them
I would give them a conditional acceptance. So a conditional acceptance is a whole other subject. I go into that in the course. That's video 15 and 16 and around that area. So a conditional acceptance is basically where they send you the statement or the bill or whatever, right? And those all have special definitions. Statement has a special definition. Bill has a special definition. You're people who are listening to this need to realize this is a whole new world, man. Statement does not mean what you think it means. Invoice does not mean what you think it means. Bill very much does not mean what you think it means. Money does not mean what you think it means. Currency does mean what you think it means. It's one of the only words that I can think of off the top of my head that actually does mean what you think it means. Okay? So, bank does not mean what you think it means. Court does not mean what you think it means. Judge most definitely does not mean what you think it means. Tell me your question again. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
So I got that. I basically said if they ask me back for the money, what do I then say to them? Because they basically said, look.
You're going to do a conditional acceptance. So what that means is you're going to say, hey boys, you've sent me this statement, which means something. Very cute, very fun. Thank you. Now, what you're going to say is you're going to say, so here's the deal. I need you guys to prove to me where this money came from. I need you to prove to me that I need to know where my negotiable instrument went. Where is my negotiable instrument? Are you guys going to be paying me for my negotiable instrument? Would you like me to give you some sort of like consulting type, exchange type fee in association with converting my negotiable instrument into British pounds? You're going to start to ask a lot of questions, and you're going to conditionally accept the statement or the bill, and then what they're going to do is they're going to like totally freak out and run away. That's how it works. In the slightest, gentlest nutshell that I can possibly do on this podcast, I break into it a lot more. I have 2 different conditional acceptances that I've written that are in the first course. The big one. The first one is on day 16. That's the first one, which is a smaller conditional acceptance. The second one, which is quite a bit more advanced and larger and more fascinating, is on post-course video number 2. And then the third one, which is the one I most recently sent in, is like a fucking philosophical tome. It is I look at it and I just almost want to like tear up. It's so beautiful to me. That one is not going to be done until I finish and release my advanced course.
Wow. Okay.
So when you can conditionally accept anything. You can conditionally accept a parking violation, a speeding violation, tax bills, anything. You name it, you can conditionally accept it. Conditional acceptance is a non-combative way of saying that I accept your offer of what you've sent me, but I need you to clarify for me many, many various things. Tell me how this law applies. Tell me how this definition applies. You're really going to break everything down into excruciating detail. And what happens is for things like banks and lending institutions, which have very, very nefarious intentions and they operate on trickery, when you start calling them out on their trickery, they run away very rapidly.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I'm pretty excited to put some of this stuff to the test. I'm definitely going to be testing out the credit card. I'm interested to see on that one. Yeah. Definitely, I'm definitely going to go private.
There's a lot of talk about exchange. It's very difficult for a person to morally and ethically accept the fact that they're getting something for nothing, right? That's not really how it works. The way it works is your credit and your entire life has already been creditized. And they've already taken you as an individual and they've already converted you into a security, okay? And they've already been trading on your future potential production and all this kind of thing, right? So your credit is based upon that whole system that they've already done all of this to you your whole life. You just didn't know about it. When you manufacture negotiable instruments out of thin air, you're manufacturing these negotiable instruments on the back of all this weird bullshit they've been doing and securitizing you and moving you around and selling you and pushing you up against bankruptcies and doing all these things. They've already creditized you, and your manufacturing of credit sort of kind of is on the back of what they're already doing. So what's happening is that when you create credit and you use it to pay a bill,
yeah,
you've already got like $100 or $150 or $300 million that they've already exchanged and creditized you back and forth and done all sorts of crazy things. So all you're doing when you manufacture this credit and when you pay for it is you're basically saying, boys, you guys have been making money off of me and fucking me around and securitizing me my entire existence. Now it's time for you guys to pay me a little something. They've got $140 million or $300 million worth of value. You're asking for $10,000, $20,000, $40,000. You can go out and buy 100 boats, 100 houses, and 100 cars, and it still won't even come close to what they've already securitized you as. So if anything, it's actually you're putting in the ethics of these organizations. You're putting in the ethics of the government by saying, guys, you've been making money off of me my whole life. Now it's time for you to exchange with me and give me value. I want this car, this house, this credit card paid off. Do it now.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah, I need to do this. I get it as well. I get the ethics of it. Like it's nothing. There's nothing wrong. There's no wrongdoing in that.
It's wrong to not do it.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very crazy, but it's wrong to allow these criminals to continue with their criminal activity. That is wrong. That is out ethics. That is not an ethical thing to do. The ethical thing to do is to calmly, unemotionally, non-violently, non-revengefully learn the law, apply the law, get these organizations that have taken everything that they possibly can from you and milked you and vampirically sucked all of your ability to be a source of credit, demand and insist that they finally start exchanging with you properly to some degree or another, and start calling out the trickery and the lies. And to shine truth on what's occurring in this world. That is the ethical thing to do. And it just so happens that by doing the ethical thing, you're going to have infinite money, essentially. That's just byproduct of this situation. There's no way around it.
Wow. I'm blown away. As always the same when I'm doing your courses anyway. I'm literally always the same. So yeah, going through some of this is even better because obviously I have these questions arise in my mind and other people ask me, and people start getting like really emotional, and it's like when someone talks about in the Matrix, right? We live in the Matrix, and like the people that are not really with it or like want to argue back are like the Agent Smiths. Are like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't pay that because they come after you and they do this. And it's like, well, if you're a fucking Neo, you're going to know the law, you're going to know your stuff, and you're going to be empowered to go and use it ethically. So, yeah, I mean, it's been very, very enlightening. In fact, I'm actually quite excited to see which credit card. I'm just thinking of I'm just going to go shopping, and I'm just thinking, sweet, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go.
Now, the whole point of what I'm doing is that in 1933 in America, when they took away all the gold and silver, when you actually read the law, the way it's supposed to work in America, and I'm sure it's probably the same in England, is you're supposed to take all your bills and send them to the government. And the government's supposed to pay all your bills. That's how it's supposed to be done in law.
Right.
We live in a completely socialist country, utterly. The government is, by law, supposed to pay for absolutely everything. Since 1933 in this country, okay? Now, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to, the first step, in my opinion, that we need to do is we need to find out what the law is and follow it exactly. 100% unemotional. If it says ABC, it's A, fucking B, fucking C. And that's it. Now, as people start to learn more and more about this, they're going to get more and more upset. And then at that point, what's going to happen is, I'm just like, let's follow the law, let's follow the law, let's follow the law. Here's the truth, here's the truth. That's all I do, all day long. Everything, my website, my course, everything, right? I don't enter in my own emotions and all the other horse shit. It's not helpful, okay? What's going to happen is that enough people are going to learn what the law actually states. Enough people are going to learn about what the situation actually is. And then they're going to be like, fuck that. That needs to end. Now, once that point comes where the truth, and then it's like, fuck this is bullshit, we need to change this. Now everybody understands the truth. Now they're like, fuck it, we need to change it. From that point, we can go back to silver and gold coins. And then we just take this whole fucking thing that we have and just wad it up into a ball and throw it right in the motherfucking trash can.
Right, yeah. So, and it basically actually starts with people like you and me actually confronting this and doing this kind of work, right?
Yeah. And that's why I talk a lot about the free cars and the free houses and the no taxes, because the fear of consequence has to be lower than the possibility of good things happening. If it's like all these amazing things could happen in your life if you do this, oh my God, it's like everything you could ever want is right at your fingertips, versus maybe you could get in trouble, but we don't really see anybody doing that. Now that fear subsides for excitement.
I reckon you could run a really good Russell Brunson's funnel campaign on this. Really paint the picture on that just part there. Like, one ever dreamed of everything you ever wanted. Like, yeah.
The problem is that there is another ethical, moral side of all of this, which is we don't want everyone to not work and not produce something of value and just fucking create negotiable instruments all day long too, right? Now, what's going to happen is once this system explodes and we go back to a silver and gold coin-based system, you're not going to be able to manufacture any currency out of thin air. That won't exist anymore. So you can only do it now for a short period of time until the system explodes, and then now at that point you're not going to be able to do that anymore, okay? So the thing is that once we go back to a silver and gold-based system, yes, everyone's going to have to work and deliver some exchange into the overall system itself, but you're not going to have to work yourself to the motherfucking bone to have nothing. That's the big difference. I'm not kidding. 25 hours a week at fucking McDonald's flipping burgers. You are a homeowner with a brand new car and a family. Your kids got bicycles. You got everything, bro. 25 hours a week flipping fucking burgers.
Will they not, if I was to get this card, right, this credit card, and basically go and use it and then not pay it, won't they, because you mentioned something there, won't they try and affect your credit rating?
Yes, but the credit rating, you've already learned a lot of that in the first few years of the course. So the way that all law is based off of, it's based off of the trustee-beneficiary relationship.
Sure.
None of us ever signed up for these credit bureaus. So it's what's called an adhesion contract or a hostage contract, as per the definition of adhesion contract and hostage. If you look up hostage in Black's Law Dictionary, you'll see that's the kind of contract that it is, something you never signed up for it. They're the trustee and you're the beneficiary. It's highly, highly illegal for them to do anything that doesn't benefit the beneficiary. So when they put those bad marks on your credit report, you just write in conditional accept. You just conditionally accept. You say, boys. Now, hold on there a second. This adhesion contract, of which I never signed up for, you guys are the trustees, and I'm the beneficiary. And I'll tell you what, this point and this point and this point that you guys just reported on this here credit report does not benefit the beneficiary, boys. And there are consequences in law for doing such a thing. There are large consequences for doing such a thing. One of which I can think off the top of my head, Title 18, peonage. Peonage is a $500,000 20-year imprisonment. Just that one point. So you say, boys, now, you wouldn't happen to be involved in peonage there, would you? And they go, oh, no, Mr. Williams, of course not. We'll get all these removed. Don't you worry there, good sir. Don't you worry. You're so funny. And then, boom, they're just gone.
Wow. Oh, man. Yeah, I need to put some of this to the test ASAP.
It becomes very hilarious, very fun, and very simple and very easy. And then one day you just wake up and you realize that literally whatever you say becomes the reality. You just create money, you create the contracts, you create the innovations, and you send them in. None of these companies have any choice but to do exactly what you say.
Wow. Yeah, and it makes total sense after breaking that down. Okay. Wouldn't on the back of that last question, wouldn't what I'll word this. Obviously, yeah, they're doing a reverse trust scam on you. I understand that.
Exactly.
But in order for you to handle that in the right way, basically meaning if they start threatening you and saying, look, we're going to put a CCJ against you, a county court judgment, and we're going to fucking come after you after this money if it's not paid, like pay this now, and big fucking red whining, like pay urgent notice, pay this now, as they do, like, fucking pay it. Like if you go, what at that level, at that stage, what do you then do? You basically write out some particular points where you start asking more questions, like, okay, where's the promissory note? Where is it? Who traded that? And then, they start trying to find out this information.
They don't want you finding out the truth of any of this, so you start asking about it in a very kind way, and they get very nervous. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, and I teach you all this in the course, it's right around video number 15. There's two different terms. I do have to go here very shortly, about 10 minutes, just so you know. There's two terms, okay? There's a term called honor and a term called dishonor, okay? And I teach you all about that in the course. It's right around video number 15, okay? So honor and dishonor is the structure of all of law. So law exists to handle disputes. Without a dispute, there is no such thing as any sort of courtroom or law or anything. You can only have courts or laws or judges or plaintiffs or defendants if there's a dispute. A dispute, the legal term that is used to describe a dispute, is called a justiciable controversy. Okay? Now, justiciable controversy is defined as there's some sort of impasse. So when you receive an offer and you say, no, fuck you, you now have a justiciable controversy because now there has been an impasse. Okay? When you receive a bill and you say, oh, gee, thanks, boys. Appreciate that. It's a cute bill. I have some questions for you. And you conditionally accept the bill. You say, I'd love to pay this bill. I'm absolutely this is a sexual experience for me to pay this bill. But I can only pay this bill if we clarify all these different points. And you send it back. There is no impasse. That's called staying in honor. As long as you stay in honor, there is no justiciable controversy. Without a justiciable controversy, courts legally will not and cannot get involved. They can't. They can't summon you anywhere. They can't send you nothing. Conditional acceptance is how you stay in honor at all times. Conditional acceptance is how you never, ever, ever wind up in a courtroom. It's physically impossible.
Wow.
So all you do is conditionally accept. You start shining the truth, and you're very gentle, very kind. You send back, oh, I'd love to pay this. It's great. I'm so excited. I have some questions. Boom, 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 boom. Whoa, leave this guy alone. Just wipe it away. Don't even just leave this guy. Don't even. You need to get the fuck away from this guy as quickly as possible.
Wow. Okay. That's fucking amazing. I've got a load of notes. I've got a load of information. I've got the rest of the videos to get through. And yeah, I can really fucking go at it with people now. I can be like, because I've got a bit more, a bit more knowledge from you now. So I've got you filled in a few gaps that obviously I was waiting to get at the end of the videos, but that's perfect. Like I've got enough now to fit the pieces in and to see how I can move forward on this. But yeah, man, it's been amazing talking to you going through this. I'm looking forward to finishing the rest of it. I'll keep you updated how I get on, and I'll let you know once I set up a trust. And no, in fact, I'm probably going to get the credit card out, and then I can set all the trust up, do all that stuff, and I'll let you know how I get on with it.
Yeah, I love it. I would love to. I'm still pretty focused in on America. I don't have like a massive monster desire to start going into other countries, but I would like to start receiving information from people in other countries that are having success, because I will at some point in time start moving into other countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And England is going to be one of the first countries that I start to really move into, because it's the one that's very, very similar to America.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you say, a lot of it originated from here, right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing, Brandon. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks for running me through that.
Yeah, man.
I'll keep you.
I hope that helps. And all this information that we've gone over in this podcast is all in the course. So you will be getting more information. You will be seeing more things. Some of the stuff that I went over in this podcast, the SS4 form and 31 CFR 328.5, there's a couple other things that those aren't in the course because I didn't find a lot of that stuff until later because my research is ongoing, right?
Sure.
So, but the advanced course is going to be covering all of this in great detail.
Amazing. Right, well, I'll let you know how I get on with that, bro. Thanks for that. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I shall speak to you soon.
Awesome, man. I should have this this podcast up by, I don't know, maybe tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, let me know when you've got it up, and I will. Because I'll probably share this content to my group and everyone that I know as well, so they can get an idea. Because it's got some great context in. So I've asked all the questions that I was getting asked, and a few questions I had myself. So this is all stuff that I can feed back to the group and just show them the benefits of, you know, what the fuck this actually is, and how they can use it. So yeah, amazing, bro, amazing. So yeah, that's me done. What's your plans for the rest of the week?
Oh, you know, conquering the world, you know.
go and get some more credit cards. Go.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of tired of all that shit for right now. We'll see. I'm strong arming Amex into giving me an Amex Black Card, so we'll see how that works out.
I wonder. So I don't know who to go. Would I get an Amex? I would have to have a look. What a good card company would be to get one over here. I'm going to check it out. But
yeah, check it out.
I'll let you know how I get on anyway, bro. I'll keep you updated on that. But yeah, man, we're. Do you know what? I have to. When you move into London, and when I've done SRD and a few other bits, we'll have to have a proper sit down and a chat and see how we can, collaborate a lot more. Yeah, because I'm fascinated. But by that time, I'd have probably finished the course and I've had a lot more KRC on what we're going over.
Awesome, man. I'm going to go ahead and end off on this podcast now, okay? Then just hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.